The Last of Us Season 2 beginning filming in just about a month from the time of recording this video, one big question remains. Should they kill this character? Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another daily discussion. Today, I want to talk about The Last of Us. If you guys have been keeping up with the news this week or seen any of my videos, any of my short videos, this has been a big week for The Last of Us, with a lot of news dropping about not only the show, some major castings for some of its key characters for its second season, but there's also been news dropping about the no return mode and some additional things that you're going to be able to get to do in The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, which drops in about a week or so. And so there's a lot of news coming out about The Last of Us, and it's been a big week for not only the show, but the game as well. And it's got me thinking a lot as I kind of mentally prepare myself to jump back into The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. In many ways, thinking about its controversial scenes, its controversial story. Arguably, again, this is one of my favorite games of all time. I just want to put that out there. I don't want to dog on the game, but it definitely was controversial. And obviously one of those big decisions that was controversial. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you have already played the game. I hope you have, because major spoiler warning. In the second game, they made the very bold and controversial decision to kill off Joel from the very beginning. And a lot of people didn't like that. And I think because they did that so early with such kind of, in my opinion, such little context about some of the other characters like Abby, I think it really alienated people and kind of, I think a lot of people just really found it difficult to feel Abby's plight or to understand the character a little bit more, just because of what they had witnessed in such a gruesome way from the very beginning of the game. And so when I started thinking about all the news that was coming about, out about Season 2 and The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, obviously, as you can imagine, I'm very much in the mindset of this game and thinking about its story and how much it kind of traumatized me the first time I played it. This was a game that when I finally finished it, which took a lot of breaks, and I had to step away a lot of times because it's a very heavy story, probably one of the heaviest stories I think I've ever experienced. And when I finally beat the game, I was like, great, this was a great game. I really enjoyed it, but I can never play this game again. And I made that vow. And I pretty much made that vow until they, and I said I would never play it again unless they remastered it. If they remastered it for next gen consoles, I would probably jump in again because it is a really great, vital, important story. I think it's definitely become the benchmark for what great storytelling in a game can be. But yeah, again, despite all of that, it's still a very controversial story. And it's one that I think has kind of re-triggered me as we get closer to the release of the remaster and, all the talk about Last of Us, Part 2, Season 2, and all that stuff. And so the question has continued to remain as to whether or not they should stick true to the story and kill off Joel, or if they should maybe potentially make some deviations in which maybe Joel doesn't die. I know some people will say, this would be a terrible idea. They definitely shouldn't do this because that would be untrue to the story. And if we're being honest, they probably are going to stay true to the story, at least in that regard, because that is such an important story beat. And I think it sets the tone for the rest of the game and likely will for Season 2. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for them to change things, because if we saw Season 1 of the show, they made a lot of changes, and a lot of those changes, I think, in my opinion, were made for the better. You look at something like a few examples. You look at Tess. Tess, yeah, she did die at the beginning of the game, and she did in the story as well. But the way that she died, the way that it was illustrated in the show for viewers, was very different than how it happened in the game. I think that was one of the first major deviations that we saw from the show, from the game to the show. And that was, I ended up looking and watching a video about it, and there are descriptions for why they made those changes. And I understood. I was like, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? And I think it set tone for the rest of the season as we would come to see a lot more changes. I mean, one of the biggest ones was also the Bill episode, which, showcased kind of the life that Bill had lived, which I was actually looking forward to. That was one of the episodes I was most looking forward to, because when we played the first game, we never really got a lot of details as to what happened with Bill. What did he end up doing? Did he just kind of stay in that area, How did he end up in that area? A lot of these questions remain, and I think a lot of those questions were kind of answered in the show, and I think they did a great job with that. But I say all that to say that there were a lot of creative changes that they made in the show that still more or less stayed true to what the game did, but also made deviations that either broadened the story, provided more context to some of the characters, or just gave a different view of how things worked while still getting to the same point. And so when it comes to season 2 and the decision to potentially kill Joel, I think they could have an opportunity where maybe they don't kill him at all. I think, maybe they do still kill him, but I don't think that they're going to do it in season 2. I really think that if anything, it's going to be a season finale event, possibly, where season 2 possibly maybe sees the show focus a lot more on backstory for, kind of what Ellie ends up doing in that time between the end of the first game and the start of the second, which I think some time does pass, obviously, because she's older. And then kind of what Abby ends up doing, which I feel like when we played the second game, after the event with Joel and Abby and Ellie, they kind of try to do some backtracking. I wish we kind of gotten backtracking, some flashbacks leading up to that moment to give context and more, I think give people a chance to really understand where Abby's coming from and her pain. Because to show that pain and how she got to that point after the event had happened, I think a lot of people just kind of shut off from that and didn't really care. And so I think for them, season 2 could potentially focus a lot on backstory leading up to that moment. I think that moment will still happen, and I think it still needs to happen, because not only does it provide such a major catalyst for Ellie and some of the other characters, Tommy, so many other characters that had ties and connections with Joel, but I think it's an important story beat. But I think the way that it happens and when it happens, I feel like could potentially be different. The question remains, should it be different? I think a lot of people, if they were to have it their way, I think they would choose for Joel not to die at all. I think Joel will probably still die. I would love for it to not happen in the way that it happens, but I don't know. It's hard to say because it's such an important story beat. It's such an important detail in the story, and I think something that, is really vital to the story. I still personally wish that Joel didn't get bodied the way he did. I felt like that. I don't know. I just felt like that wasn't necessary. But, hey, who knows? I think I just want to make this video because I feel like The Last of Us HBO series, definitely in what we saw in season 1, isn't afraid to make changes, and it's not afraid to deviate from the story. And so when it comes to season 2 and specifically that moment, I think that there could be some deviations from that, in which that particular moment doesn't happen in the way that it does. And could that potentially change the story? Would people like it more? I don't know. I think either way, season 2's, when that moment happens, I think it is going to be polarizing for a lot of people. I think it's going to be re-triggering for those who have already experienced the game. But I think it's still an important moment. I would love to know in the comment section what you guys think about this. Do you think that Joel should be killed in the second season? Do you think they should maybe potentially make some changes? And if they did make changes, what changes would you want to see? And if they did, continue on the path of killing Joel, is there some different way that you'd want to see it happen? Let me know in the comment section. I think it just has me thinking a lot about the second season and the second game specifically, and what they potentially could do to kind of mix it up a little bit. But I think Joel's still probably going to die. I don't think it's going to happen at the beginning of the season. I think it'll probably be the end of season 2, or because we know that part 2 is going to be split into two, multiple seasons. I think it's going to be at least 2 seasons covering the second game because it's so massive. So I think when it comes down to it, I think Joel will still die. Partially because that's how the story goes, but I think they have even more incentive for it, given the fact that Pedro Pascal's becoming so busy with a lot of different projects under his belt. Rumors about him being a part of the Fantastic Four, and if that's true and that actually does happen, I think that's going to produce some major complications to keep him involved in the show. I think they will keep him involved at least for one more season, and possibly his flashbacks in season 3. Small moments between him and Ellie, as season 3 will primarily probably focus on her story and kind of the revenge arc of that story. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you think in The Last of Us season 2, do you think that Joel should be killed? And if so, let me know. If not, let me know. If you're saying, Rye, I think you're crazy, I think they should keep Joel, there's no reason that they should get rid of him, then let me know. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the discussion videos talking about the latest in pop culture and all the things that are happening, let me know. What do you think about these videos? Do you think they're good? Should we keep doing them? Any sort of support you can drop in these videos is greatly appreciated. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.